Hello and welcome. My name is Juliana, and today we're talking about gate or gene key 26. I am a registered therapeutic counselor and a quantum human design specialist, and above all, I am a seeker who loves the archetypal messaging and information available to us in the gene keys and the gates. So let's dive in. I'm going to start on the human design side and then move to the gene key side. So gate 26 is in the will center and it connects to the spleen via gate 44. And this is in the ego or the economic circuit. And what's important to note is that the will center is a motor center, and so it means that there's a pulsing on and off. It's designed to rest. So we'll get into that a little more. I just want to point that out there. There's rest built into the will center, thus there's going to be rest built into gate 26. In quantum human design language, the name of this gate is the gate of integrity, and in traditional language, it's the gate of the egoist. And this gate really has to do, because it's in the ego or economic circuit, it has to do about selling. It has to do about selling out into the world, or giving, or selling what we have in the world. But it has to do with selling with integrity. And by living in integrity, physical, energetic, moral, identity, and resource integrity, we then will give back and hold the possibility of an abundant future for all, for the world, without compromising any integrity. And so in order to do that, in order to live this gate out in integrity, it takes a tremendous amount of courage and trust, because we are right now in this process of transforming the way that we sell, the way that we look at the economy, the way that we make money. And so a lot of, although I think it's changing, but a lot of the messaging on how you sell, especially back in the 90s, maybe the early 2000s, it always felt kind of like icky to me. And so in order to be someone who is holding this idea of, no, abundance is something that everyone can have, and I can sell what I have to give to the world, takes a tremendous amount of living in integrity in order to do so. So not compromising yourself and learning how to value your right place in the world, knowing that your value is, or how you feel about yourself and how much you value yourself, will create a correlation to not only the abundance for yourself, but the abundance for others. And abundance, I don't just mean money. Abundance, I mean having the things that we need, having the things that we have. And I'll get to this more in the gene keys, but it's also important to note that right now, our world is playing out very much the shadow aspect of this, right? It's all about the ego, it's all about fighting, it's all about scarcity and lack. And so this gene key is about abundance for all. And it has to do with the correct use of the will center or willpower. So on the shadow side of this gene key, the name is pride. And it's about this conditioning in the world that nothing will come to you unless you work your ass off for it, you reach out, you grab it, you race for it, you got to get to it before anyone else does. And this conditioning implants in us this scarcity thought, right? And this fear. And the truth is that human beings, we are of the earth. And if we look out at the earth has natural ebbs and flows. Life naturally ebbs and then it naturally flows. You can see this very easily with the tides and the moon, right? Sometimes the tides are really big, sometimes they're really small. You also see this with the seasons. So what this shadow of pride does is it creates a distrust in the natural ebbs and flows of life. And so in this distrust, you try to control by fighting and pushing your individual will against the whole. And what will result in this, if we go back up to the human design piece, is that willpower, remember, the will center pulses on and off, it's a motor center, is that if you are constantly trying to control life and pushing your individual will against the whole and fighting, you're going to burn out. It's a very exhausting place to be. So if you have enough willpower, right, I see people with defined will centers do this, you can create almost anything. You can push and get stuff done. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is a brilliant mechanism of willpower. But what happens is that when we use our individual will, we disconnect from the will of the whole, meaning the universe, the divine. And we use force. And this means that we push others aside with our willpower, and it can look as personal gain in spite of how that impacts others. And you can look everywhere in our world right now, and this is how our world operates. There's so much about pushing forward, and it doesn't matter what anybody else is experiencing, I get to experience this. And when we come from this shadow place, this can result in manipulation. Think of the sleazy, and if you've ever been sold anything in a way that made your skin crawl, this is the shadow of pride, right? It's the fear-based version of the ego. But the power of willpower, is quite magical, because this is the ability to harness the power of light and project it through your body and through your thoughts and words. It's about taking inspiration and then sharing it with others for the benefit of others. So the gift of this gene key is called artfulness. And this side celebrates the ego, because the ego is not all bad. There's a shadow aspect of the ego, and then there's a higher expression of the ego. Often in some spiritual circles, the ego can be seen as bad or the enemy of the higher self. And that's simply not true. The ego, when the ego is existing on the shadow side, it has simply come in to protect. It's living in a place of fear, right? But the ego is the creator and the destroyer. And when you work with the ego from a higher frequency, it can create and destroy what is no longer needed. Destroy what is no longer needed and create what is needed. And it can do this not only for itself, but also for others. And so it works through the love of selling something in full integrity. When you embody this gift of artfulness, you're selling because you believe in it, because you love it, because you are in integrity with it, right? So it's as if the ego becomes an art form, and it sells through love in the heart. The ego is part of our existence in this physicality, this physical realm that we live in. And when we look at the shadow side of this, that manipulation piece is the shadow side of the ego, right? But if we look at manipulation, if we look at the word manipulation, on the shadow side, I'm sure all of you can think of people messaging that manipulate, right? That don't communicate in integrity, that don't tell the full truth. But now I'd like to invite you to think of the word to manipulate, which means to handle skillfully with your hands. You can manipulate an object like clay. This is what all the artists do, right? Like sculptors, painters, they manipulate one thing, gardeners, into another form. And this art of manipulation, using it in this way, on a higher frequency, is where we see transparency in the selling. So it's like, if I am selling one of my coaching or therapy sessions, because that is essentially what I'm doing when I have a consult with someone, one of the first things I say to them is, this is for you. I'm not going to convince you of anything. This is your time to connect with me. And above all, I want you to no longer need me when we're done working together. Right? That's always my goal for my clients, is they don't need the support from me anymore because they feel empowered in themselves. Now that is a manipulation of sense, because I'm manipulating all of my knowledge and my education and my own personal experiences, and then I'm sharing my knowledge, my experiences, my education with people who want to receive that, and I am fully transparent and in integrity when I do it. Now, I have also experienced the other side of this, and this gate and gene keys in my Uranus, and it's really being highlighted right now as I move through my Uranus opposition, that everything I do needs to be in full integrity with me. Otherwise things just don't work. Things don't work, or I feel like I'm being burnt out, or I'm pushing and pushing and pushing. And so the more that I can be in alignment with what my heart wants, what my energy needs, how much rest I need, whether a modality truly resonates with me or not, whether my website reflects the full aspect of me, whether I like my note-taking system, whether the client that is having a consult with me feels in alignment with me or not, and to be honest about that and perhaps refer them to someone else that I know if I feel there might not be an alignment there. And so when you're transparent in sharing what you know, then the other person can choose honestly whether to accept the selling or say no. And then you empower them to make the full decision, and there isn't the shadow side of the manipulation that occurs. And so when we express what we have to offer the world while trusting in the natural ebbs and flows of life, of other people, this becomes an art form. You yourself become this artful seller. You sell your art. Your whole experience becomes your art, and you trust that someone else isn't going to buy. For example, right now we're always talking about money. We might one day go back to bartering, or we might even transcend that and go to energy exchanges, right? But when you can trust that what you have to offer isn't for that person, you also create space for the right people to come in. So there is gate or gene key 26 for you. I really hope that helped. If you enjoyed this video, you're invited to like, share, and subscribe. You're also invited to, you can subscribe to my newsletter on my website, and the link is below. I have a free boundary guide in there. It's a 2-week mini video course if you would like, or if you just want to reach out. I would love to hear what you thought. Thank you so much for watching.